Boys, what is going on? It's me. Here we are. We are talking about the meta game in Duel Links. I told you guys I'd make a follow-up video after GGtoor. For those that are unaware, GGtoor is the largest Duel Links tournament that we host over on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/DLE Yugioh. Go check it out. But regardless, $500 were on the line. And we have some very interesting meta analysis to go over with you guys today. If you have not checked out the VOD for that tournament was amazing. Definitely go check out the videos that I post later for the top 4 and the finals this week. But let's talk about the actual tournament itself. We're going to start the very basics for people who did not watch the tournament and look at the overall breakdown. 233 players, overwhelming number of Black Rose Dragon and Mech Lords, and then Heroes following up at 3rd place. It is by no surprise that people play a bunch of Black Rose Dragon, and Mech Lord ended up being the deck that people chose as its kind of counter deck, right? Emperor Weisel, really good card for stopping people from playing spells and spell cards, which is really good against Black Rose Dragon, which really needs spell cards like, you know, Basil Shoot, for example, or even their own MSTs to clear back row. Ended up being a very powerful strategy against Rose Dragon. Of course, they have their new selection box card, the Triskelion, which was just OTKing people left and right, because right now people are playing really high attack power extra deck monsters. And in a 4K life point meta, it is very simple for that monster just to get one direct attack and then just win the entire game. So there you go. Mech Lords popping off in today's tournament. I will say, in a lot of the games, which we'll actually go over to the top 32 breakdown, which is holy shit, 12 Mech Lords, 11 Rose Dragons, and then just everybody else, right? I will say in this tournament, it definitely felt like it was the Black Rose meta, with the Mech Lords just being the anti-meta deck, right? There were a lot of games that were just, I have Stygian Dirge out, so you can never Synchro Summon, and I have Mech Lord Weasel out, or Weisel rather out, so you can never MST my Stygian Dirge. That's what a lot of these duels came down to. So there you go. Very interesting metagame that we find ourselves in. A lot of people are going to be angry and being like, Rye, why are we in a 2-deck format again? An even worse 2-deck format than Burning Abyss and DDD. And I am here to tell you that I may have clickbaited you a little bit. I may have lied to you in the title. This may be not the worst metagame we have been in. We're not sure yet. That's the thing. We're not sure yet because a lot of these decks are still being optimized. For example, Mech Lord, this is the second time we've seen them in a best of 3 side deck event. The first time they didn't even make it past top 32, and now in the $500 tournament, they made it all the way to top 4. You heard me right. Top 4. Black Rose Dragon only made top 8, and Mech Lords only made top 4. Neither deck actually made it to the grand finals. The 2 decks that did make it to the finals were Galaxy Eyes and, would you believe it, a deck I wouldn't have believed, Phantom Knights, with Phantom Knights winning the whole event. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about, first of all, how did both of these decks make grand finals? Because they made it pretty convincingly, too. DD Crow. DD Crow is a card that we talked about a lot in the past. People have been playing it like crazy to deal with things like Galaxy Eyes, to deal with things like Black Rose Dragon. The thing is, right now, the metagame is, everyone, at least in this tournament, focused solely on Black Rose Dragon and Mech Lords. Those are the only 2 decks in people's minds. And DD Crow, while people still played it, and we actually even saw it in the grand finals, it just did not see as much play as you would think in a big tournament like this. So what ended up happening is Galaxy Eyes almost had like a free run all the way to grand finals, you know, crushing decks like Mech Lords and whatnot, being able to very quick, which you would think there's no way, right? He would just steal the, 4,500 attack monster in their deck, and boom, they kill him every single time. But that ain't what happened, man. Galaxy Eyes popped off. They did very well and made it all the way to the grand finals, but again, ended up losing to Phantom Knights. Phantom Knights is in a very interesting position because, yes, there's also DD Crow that affects them too. But again, because of so many side deck cards like Dimensional Fissure, which the Galaxy Eyes players did have, being selection box cards, I feel like as the metagame kind of slows down from the new back row intensive meta that we're entering because of Mech Lords, slowing down the game with Stygian Dirge and Weisel and the new Triskelion, and Black Rose always kind of being a back row deck, we ended up in this situation where they could play whatever back row they wanted, playing that triple MST to clear other people's back row, and then playing Canadias to resummon monsters. We saw Compulsory Evacuation Device. We saw Non-Fusion Area in the side decks. Just overall, with the meta slowing down, Phantom Knights are able to kind of pop off again, if you will. So, happy to see them back. I did not expect it. I always enjoy when an older, more free-to-play deck is able to come back and do things in the metagame. So, where does that leave us? Let's talk about tier list. Oh boy. Now, a thing to note about the tier list. First of all, these are all my opinion, right? So you could have a drastically different opinion from what I have, and that is A-okay. There is no problem with having a different opinion from me. 2, I don't think this meta is solved. I think this meta has been blown wide open with the idea that if these two decks are battling out for first place, Rose Dragon and Mech Lord, tier 2 and tier 3 have a high chance of changing rapidly. And we'll talk about that as we kind of go through the tier list and why I think everything should be where it is. So, first things first, tier 1, Rose Dragon. Oh, baby. The entirety of tier 1 revolves around Rose Dragon. Even though Mech Lord is here, no one is prepping for Mech Lords except Rose Dragon. In fact, Mech Lords themselves lost a lot of games where they did not go up against Rose Dragon. Almost the entirety of Mech Lord is built to counter Black Rose Dragon right now. That doesn't mean that the deck sucks against other decks. It can still get cheesy OTKs. It can still get, crazy lethals through the Triskelion. They still have the, their whole Xyz engine available to them if they want to do the Magus play with the Iron Wolf. And then you would basically have the Duel Links version of Zeus coming out with the Great Magus, non-targeting Shuffle twice. Really, really strong, but ultimately proved strong against Rose Dragon specifically, and then we just saw random L's that Mech Lord was taking against decks like Necros, Galaxy Eyes, Phantom Knight. They were just losing the other matchups against other rogue decks. So we'll have to see if Mech Lords further optimize against other matchups, or if it's just purely going to be a Rose Dragon counter. We don't really know right now. But what we do know is Rose Dragon is warping the entire meta, and has created this kind of anti-meta deck in Mech Lords, which still does well against other decks to keep it also in tier 1 just through sheer number of representation. If Mech Lord is unable to get better against other decks, though, expect it to drop to tier 2. Speaking of which, tier 2! Our 2 finalist decks. If you remove the tier 1 decks, and I kind of think of what are the best decks, these are the 2 that come to mind. Galaxy Eyes has been on the edge for an extremely, extremely long time. They have been in the grand finals of GGtoor multiple times. They are still waiting to win their first GGtoor. And then Phantom Knights can play, a whole bunch of back row with their new skill as well. They can pop multiple cards. I did not personally believe in Phantom Knights. I was a huge Phantom Knight doubter. But here they are. They've proven me wrong. They've won a GGtoor again after winning multiple GGtours earlier in the year. They're still popping off. You can't. You got to give them credit. You got to sit down and be like, all right, this deck's pretty good. That being said, I believe both of these decks kind of slid in as people kept battling Black Rose and Mech Lord together. So it's going to be interesting to see if these will remain tier 2 decks after those 2 other decks have optimized and the meta kind of further settles down. That's what I want to see. And then tier 3, Heroes. Heroes had an okay top rate. They're okay. They're not the best deck right now, I will say. But I think as more hero players kind of figure out the Mech Lord matchup, I think against Black Rose is kind of a wash. The deck kind of just doesn't do well against them. But if they can figure out Mech Lords, they still have Super Poly. They still have great OTK potential. Maybe we'll see the Neos build kind of take over a little bit more. I'll be honest, I kind of struggled to put this on here. I really only did it because if we go back and look at the breakdown itself, you could see that heroes were, you know, they were kind of the second most topped with the, you know, third most entered. If I'm being totally honest with you, I think heroes are just going to drop off by the time the meta fully settles down, if I had to guess. But as of right now, I think in terms of when I compare heroes to other rogue decks, I think heroes still are a cut above. That being said, the rift between tier 2 and tier 3 is very vast right now. And then other decks we're going to talk about, these are decks that I'm sure people will ask me about. Burning Abyss is no longer meta. Along with DDD and Burning Abyss, these decks are no longer meta. They have been over-nerfed, and they are officially gone from the metagame. Goodbye. See you later. Till next time. And then also with the introduction of Mech Lords, there's just any chance they had against Black Rose, it's just done at this point. Odd Eyes actually did okay this tournament. They popped off a little bit. They were able to top. But I think ultimately Odd Eyes is also another deck that we're just going to be saying sayonara to. You know, they had a long running in the metagame, but they just, whatever they could do, DDD did better, and DDD is no longer part of the metagame. So they're gone as well. And then the new Fish deck. It sucks. Let's go. Wow. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you agree. If you disagree, just let me know down in the comments down below. Again, these are all my personal opinions on the metagame, and they will 100% change as the meta shifts, because this meta has not settled whatsoever. This meta still has lots of room for changes, namely when we are talking about the tier 2 and tier 3 positions, and then maybe even Mech Lord might drop a little bit if the Rose Dragons can adapt to them, as this was really the first DLE tournament where they were just all over the place, and you could tell Black Rose Dragon did not have a proper plan. I mean, just look at this breakdown, right? From what was it, 60-something, 62 Black Rose Dragons down to 30 of the Mech Lords. And then look at this conversion rate. Mech Lord was actually the highest converting deck from 30 to 12. 11 out of 62 Black Rose Dragons is not a good conversion rate. So there you go. That's my thoughts on the metagame. Thank you guys for watching. Until the next video, go check out the finals and the top 4 video as well. I love you guys. Peace out.